Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about marketing and being the best salesman in the world. I was in China 8 years ago and I went with my family, and there's this one place we went. It was this very big mountain, and it required that we had to hike and walk about almost 30 minutes from where we landed at the mountain via, I think it was train, to the actual site where we can start hiking up the mountain. And so for that 30 minutes while we were walking back after finished hiking, the whole mountain was at the bottom filled with these salespeople. They were all very poor. You could just tell by how they were dressed. And they had all these trinkets on. And they were just hounding all the tourists, anyone coming through, please buy our stuff. And it'd be a bunch of crap like bracelets, metallic bracelets, or plastic things, or little trinkets that at the time you saw everywhere when we were on the train, when we went to any sort of tourist attraction throughout China, same sort of trinkets. And so this one female, she was like elderly aged, middle aged, somewhat, poor. She hounded us for the full 30 minutes. And throughout, my father kept saying, no, no, I'm not interested. I'm not interested at all. Initially, he was somewhat nice. Towards the end, he wasn't mean, but he was very curt. And let's just say that's how it went. She just kept hounding my father, and it wouldn't end. You just kept saying no, no, no. And one of the most interesting things she did was she didn't take rejection or anything badly at all. It didn't affect her ego. It didn't do anything. In fact, she even waved at another salesperson who was hounding another tourist who was walking towards them. Because we were walking away, another one was walking towards them, and she was like, hi, and then she went straight back to this hounding. Now, obviously, if you're an American tourist, first off, the American tourists, they didn't know any better, and they were much easier in terms of buying stuff, so it didn't take them too much work. But for people like my dad who spoke Mandarin, it was even worse, because now she could use her native language to just hound this person. And if you guys are wondering what sort of salesperson techniques she used, it really wasn't anything spectacular or amazing. That's the sort of amazingness of this art, I believe. It was just simply, please, you can buy this for your children, sir. Please, it's quite amazing. It doesn't cost much at all. Look at you. You dressed in a suit. You're quite amazing. Why was he dressed in a suit? Strange reasons. But regardless, here she was, hounding away, and nothing at all really affected her. And ultimately, my dad eventually broke down, and I was somewhat angry at the time, being young, because we were almost at the end. We were about to get to that place, but I saw the look on my dad's face, and I knew that, at the same time, he realized that this wasn't just to get this person away, get this annoying fly away. He kind of knew that, this person had to make a living, and he kind of did it because of that. For me though, and for him also, he realized, it's one of those things. Sometimes they're doing well off enough, and they're just these annoying flies. And from what I learned from that, I realized that, first off, people in European and American countries are scared to death of rejection. They're scared to death of it hurting their ego. They don't want to come across as annoying a person or being rude and intrusive. And at the same time, they shouldn't, because sometimes they are being that. But from that experience, I realized this person almost completely embodied the aspect of, hey, rejection is not going to bother me at all. You could just tell by how she was doing it that this was her standard routine on a day-to-day basis. Just following these people. She literally followed us for that 30-minute thing and just kept, trying to convince my dad to buy this thing. And salespeople here, they get discouraged from rejection. And it's part of the etiquette and culture here. But for her, in her situation, rejection could only do so much to her. It couldn't affect her ego. It couldn't affect her self-esteem as a person. My dad was too nice to be rude or physically assaultive to the person. He couldn't threaten the police because we were in such a rural area. There was no police. It was just thousands of people in a very rural mountainous area. And ultimately, there's really nothing you could do to rejection. If my dad had, for some reason, gotten physically offensive, she probably would have just eventually cut her losses and just said, okay, sorry to bother you, and left and moved on. But my dad was too nice to do any of that, and she just kept going and going and going. And 8 years now, I'm sure China's even thriving even more. There could be even more ridiculous salespeople. Like, that's the standard there. It's they're going at it. They're pushing the limits to the full potential. In America, very recently, just today actually, I was at a gas station, and I was approached by one person who was trying to sell me this aerosol spray. It was this wax spray that you could spray on all parts of your car, and it would just, be completely clean, and nothing that you could get on it would stay on there. Dirt, fingerprints, it just, be completely clean. And he showed how the air, when you're moving fast in the car, would just blow off any dirt or anything on there because of how well you polished and waxed it with the spray. But he gave up pretty quickly. I just said, I really wasn't feeling it. I didn't want to buy anything. And if, for me as a person, I'm unique. If that lady in China had hounded me all that time, I don't know if I would have cracked. Maybe I would have if she exploited very manipulative stuff like emotions and just reasoned it out and just kept hounding and annoying me. Like, you look pretty rich. I don't buy that reasoning that you can't afford this trinket. And, I'm sure if I got annoyed enough, I would have. But ultimately, this person, this American, he ended up leaving pretty quickly. Here's the gold truth of it, though. A lot of people might just watch this and then say, oh, well, that's the key. All I got to do is, stop being so scared of rejection. This American obviously quit almost immediately after I told him I wasn't interested, probably due to some of the culture behind it. It's kind of rude to harass people and so forth, which is kind of true. And therefore, I should adopt this Chinese philosophy that salesperson did. She just kept hounding any sort of rejection or retort or anything that was probably thrown at her. Didn't really matter because it didn't affect her at all. She was smiling throughout it, and it kept her going, and nothing could have stopped her because she didn't take it personally at all, 0%. But the real gold truth of it is, for a business, it's a different scenario because it's much better to have a product or develop a product that's so great that your customers are begging you for it. And if you have a crappy product, like something like a trinket or something that breaks easily, like even if it's mediocre or average, like that waxing spray, it's very, very hard. And even if you have the best sales team ever, ultimately, if the product sucks, you just constantly have to shove things down people's throat and going the extra mile, and everything relies on that salesperson. It's no longer the product, it's the sales force. And if you look at the best businesses, the most successful businesses in history, they've never had to do this. Microsoft, sure, they employed marketing and so forth, and Apple did too. But their product was so amazing that people naturally loved it so much that through word of mouth, convenience, the quality of the product, people came. People wanted to buy it. People want to see what the next iPhone's like because it's so amazing. They have it pre-ordered. They have it locked down. And that sort of economic goodwill is so much better for business than just having a crappy or mediocre or average product, and then employing all your time on developing the best salesperson ever. And I mean, at the same time, it's the same thing. Like, you could be the best salesperson in the world, and you could sell anything. That seems to be like the dream of everyone. After a number of videos that sort of preach this philosophy, be that person who can sell anything. Sell me this pen. Well, do you want to be that salesperson who can sell anything when in reality that's not how it works? You may convince a few people by hounding them or using all these tactics, either through annoying them or just constantly trying to get them to do their thing through maybe psychological methods, or have something better than a pen to sell. I'm pretty sure that if you can get a product that's as amazing as See's Candy or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or the iPhone or a laptop or a MacBook Pro, and you're bound to find someone who wants to buy it because it can do a lot of good for a lot of people. There are plenty of people who, through word of mouth and from seeing products, they've never had to even be convinced at all. They're saving up money to buy this product, and they've been wanting this product for a long time. And I think that in itself is so much more important, and getting that sort of product or service is beyond just something like creating an average product. Like, forget a crappy or poor product. Just being average or somewhat useful is not enough. Like a commodity is like what you have to really have an edge, honestly. And so that's my business perspective. But as far as as a salesperson goes, whether you're making a living or extending this analogy of being a salesperson beyond business to other areas of life, not giving up so quickly and not taking things so seriously and letting it affect your self-esteem is very useful. If you're making a living and you're poor and you have to sell these trinkets, then the person who's not taking it so seriously, and if someone says no and says stuff like "stop annoying me," and you're not affected by that, then you're probably going to be the better salesperson. At the same time, with other stuff, for me especially, in terms of dating, it's very relevant because I still do, and it kind of sucks, but I will eject or just leave an interaction after an approach very quickly sometimes because I'm just scared that I'm being rude. And then when I look back at it, it's like, no, it was a good conversation, and you're just so scared that you left after like a few sentences after the initial approach. Like, that level of fear is just going to stifle someone, and it's much better to just not take it so crappily. Sometimes persistence is useful, especially when rejection isn't real rejection. Latin American countries don't have this sort of problem with males. They are pretty upfront, and it's sort of ingrained in their culture. This whole idea of the guy chasing and then the girl almost by nature pushing him away 5 or 6 times before she finally gets won over by the guy. You see it in many Latin American dance styles, salsa and so forth, tango, and I think there's a disconnect in European cultures nowadays. Not for everyone, okay? If you're that guy who's constantly out and about, hounding girls and annoying them, and pissing them off and doing like immoral things, or just being very very rude to the girls, and then not really getting it through your head the first or second or fourth time that, hey, this is very rude and annoying and spreading a bad message, then that's a different message. But if you're the type of guy like me who's like, you know, just because the girl shows slightly bad body language or is not like super enthusiastic when you approach, and you take that as a sign of like, oh, she doesn't like me, and you just like leave, then you should probably try harder. I mean, there's so many examples in so many areas of life where people who don't give up, or don't just give up after the first hurdle, they succeed, and then they manage to reap the results. Sometimes there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but it went something along the lines of, sometimes the moment that you think is the most likely that you want to give up, or the time that feels like that makes you want to give up the most, that's usually right before you succeed. So it's kind of one of those things. But again, baby steps for most people. You probably just want to work at not giving up so quickly if you're in my category. And so that's all I really wanted to say in a nutshell. I hope it helped you with being a better salesperson, and if you're business inclined, realizing that having the best salesperson in the world is not as important as other factors, but no doubt it can help. If you have a bomb ass product and you have the best salesperson in the world, best of both worlds. If you have a crappy or mediocre or medium product, depends what you want to focus on. Probably sales isn't the priority. And then finally, for those of you in the dating field, or not just dating, but even fitness, or again business, or just success in life in general, or getting that job as an actor, or whatever, just realize that you don't have to take rejection so personally. You have to realize, just like in my first analogy, it can only hurt you if you choose to let it hurt you. And in certain scenarios, you kind of have to realize and wake up and smell the roses that, heck, it can not hurt you at all if you don't let it, if you have the right mindset. I don't know, that's all I really want to say, and I hope you guys realize that I'm sort of working on things myself. I'm not some sort of expert guru, so take my advice and what I've said with a grain of salt. As always, if you feel like this has provided you with some value, follow me on social media, subscribe to this YouTube for more content, and I'll see you in my next video. Like, favorite, comment, share this video with everyone you think would like it, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later.